Some of these conspiracies are wild, unsettling, and highly speculative. This video is for entertainment purposes only. Viewer discretion is advised. The Antarctic Impulsive Transient Antenna detected an extremely high-energy particle in 2016, which appeared to emerge from within the Earth and travel upward through the planet, defying our understanding of physics. Standard particles should be blocked by Earth's dense mass, making this observation particularly puzzling to researchers who initially assumed it was an error in the detection system. Multiple verification methods confirmed the particle's trajectory, suggesting it may be evidence of a new type of matter that can pass through solid objects in ways previously thought impossible. The particle's behavior aligns with theoretical predictions about sterile neutrinos, hypothetical particles that only interact through gravity, and could potentially explain the existence of dark matter. Scientists calculated that the chance of this event occurring randomly within known physics is less than 1 in a million, leading to speculation about alternate dimensions or unknown quantum properties. Similar unexplained particle events were recorded in the early 21st century by the Anaa-ti balloon experiment, suggesting a pattern of anomalous particle behavior, specifically around the Antarctic region. Some researchers connect these observations to ancient Antarctic geomagnetic anomalies, proposing that unique properties of the continent's bedrock might facilitate exotic particle interactions. Government research facilities in Antarctica have reportedly shifted resources towards studying these phenomena, though much of this research remains classified due to potential technological applications. Various environmental samples and geological studies from northwestern Iran reveal traces of nuclear isotopes and unusual radiation patterns that some researchers claim are evidence of an unreported nuclear detonation in the late 20th century. Declassified satellite imagery from 1986 shows an unexplained atmospheric disturbance over the region, accompanied by seismic readings consistent with a subterranean nuclear explosion. Local medical records from the period indicate an unexpected spike in radiation-related illnesses, though official explanations attribute this to industrial accidents and natural radiation sources. Several Soviet-era documents mention unusual military activity in the area during this time, including the rapid deployment of specialized chemical detection units to the Iranian border. Multiple independent geological surveys have identified a peculiar glass-like substance in the soil, similar to trinitite, which typically forms only under conditions of extreme heat and pressure characteristic of nuclear explosions. Atmospheric testing from neighboring countries detected unusual levels of xenon-133 and cesium-137 during this period, isotopes commonly associated with nuclear detonations. Analysis of tree ring data from the region shows an abrupt change in growth patterns and radiation absorption levels during the suspected time frame, matching patterns observed near known nuclear test sites. The Hydrophobia Experiments were a series of classified military tests conducted in the 1950s that attempted to induce permanent fear responses to water in human subjects, with the goal of creating soldiers immune to naval warfare tactics. Declassified documents reveal researchers used a combination of chemical compounds and psychological conditioning to alter the brain's response to water contact, successfully creating intense physiological reactions in test subjects. Several test subjects developed an extreme aversion to water that persisted decades after the experiments, with medical records showing unusual brain activity patterns when exposed to even small amounts of liquid. Military records indicate the research expanded to include studying natural cases of hydrophobia in rabies patients, attempting to isolate and synthesize the specific neural mechanisms that create water aversion. Surviving photographs from the facility show specialized chambers designed to expose subjects to various forms of water while monitoring brain activity, heart rate, and stress hormone levels. Analysis of blood samples from former test subjects revealed long-term changes in their neural chemistry, particularly in areas associated with fear response and water regulation. The program was allegedly terminated after multiple subjects developed severe psychological disorders and an inability to process normal bodily fluids, leading to severe dehydration and medical complications. The theory of Martian origin for humanity suggests Adam and Eve were actually beings from Mars who were transported to Earth as part of an ancient survival program when their planet became uninhabitable. Ancient Sumerian texts describe celestial beings arriving from the sky and establishing the first human civilization, with specific references to a red world that some interpret as Mars. Geological evidence shows Mars once had conditions remarkably similar to Earth, including liquid water and an atmosphere capable of supporting life forms similar to humans. DNA analysis reveals unexplained gaps in human evolutionary history, particularly regarding the sudden emergence of complex cognitive abilities, which some researchers attribute to extraterrestrial genetic engineering. Several religious texts contain descriptions of the Garden of Eden that match geological features visible on Mars, including references to 4 rivers that align with ancient Martian water channels visible in satellite imagery. Anthropological studies note that many ancient cultures share similar creation myths involving beings descending from the sky, potentially preserving a cultural memory of Martian origins. Archaeological discoveries have uncovered artifacts suggesting ancient civilizations possessed advanced astronomical knowledge specifically focused on Mars, including detailed maps of its surface features from before the invention of telescopes. Genetic research has identified unique sequences in human DNA that appear to be artificially inserted, showing signs of advanced engineering that some scientists argue could only have originated from a more technologically advanced civilization. Anaa-ti refers to a mysterious mathematical pattern discovered in ancient Babylonian tablets that appears to accurately predict solar flare cycles thousands of years in advance. The sequence contains numbers that correlate with major recorded solar events throughout history, using a base 60 numerical system that modern astronomers have found aligns with sophisticated solar monitoring data. Several clay tablets containing these calculations were discovered in the ruins of a temple dedicated to astronomical observation, suggesting the Babylonians possessed advanced knowledge of solar behavior. Modern analysis of the formula shows it incorporates subtle variations in Earth's magnetic field strength, a factor only recently recognized as influential in solar cycle predictions. Independent researchers have used the sequence to successfully forecast several major solar events in the past decade, leading to increased scientific interest in the ancient formula. The pattern also appears to account for the sun's differential rotation rates at various latitudes, a phenomenon not officially discovered until the 19th century. Recent satellite data has revealed that certain electromagnetic frequencies emitted during solar flares match numerical ratios found within the Anaa-ti sequence, suggesting the ancient Babylonians had methods of detecting solar activity that remain unknown to modern science. Archaeological discoveries across Europe have revealed evidence of sophisticated mechanical devices dating back to the Neolithic period, including geared mechanisms and complex pulley systems that shouldn't have been possible given the assumed technological level of the era. Several sites contain remnants of what appear to be advanced water management systems, featuring precisely engineered components that suggest knowledge of fluid dynamics, typically associated with much later civilizations. Metal artifacts found in France and Germany show signs of precision machining, with regularly spaced notches and interlocking components that indicate deliberate mechanical design. Analysis of certain megalithic structures reveals mounting points and wear patterns consistent with the operation of large-scale mechanical devices, possibly used for astronomical calculations or agricultural timing. Cave paintings discovered in southern Spain appear to depict complex mechanical assemblies, including what researchers interpret as gear trains and counterweight systems. Chemical analysis of tool marks on preserved wooden artifacts suggests the use of cutting implements far more sophisticated than simple stone tools, indicating possible knowledge of metallurgy and mechanical advantage principles. Recent excavations have uncovered small clay models of what appear to be mechanical devices, complete with moving parts and mathematical markings that align with modern engineering principles. Microscopic examination of wear patterns on preserved artifacts indicates regular, precise movements that could only have been achieved through mechanical assistance, challenging conventional timelines of technological development. The Gateway Project was a classified U.S. Army program that developed audio technology capable of inducing specific brainwave patterns to achieve altered states of consciousness and potentially enable remote viewing abilities. Declassified documents reveal the Army collaborated with the Monroe Institute to create specialized audio frequencies that could synchronize both hemispheres of the brain, allowing participants to access different levels of reality. Laboratory experiments documented subjects accurately describing distant locations and events while listening to these specialized sound patterns, which used binaural beats to alter consciousness. The technique incorporated ancient Tibetan meditation methods combined with modern electroencephalograph (EEG) research to map specific consciousness states associated with psychic phenomena. Multiple government agencies maintained copies of the Gateway tapes, with internal memos suggesting successful results in gathering intelligence through non-physical means. Scientific analysis of participants' brain activity during Gateway sessions showed unusual patterns of coherence between the left and right hemispheres, matching states previously observed only in advanced meditation practitioners. Reports indicate some participants experienced vivid encounters with non-human intelligences and access to information beyond conventional space-time limitations. Military personnel who underwent Gateway training reported heightened intuition and decision-making abilities that persisted long after the sessions concluded. The Gaea restocking theory suggests Earth maintains a genetic library of all species that have ever existed, periodically reintroducing extinct creatures when environmental conditions become favorable again. Multiple instances of extinct species reappearing have been documented, including the Bermuda petrel, which resurfaced after 330 years of presumed extinction, and the La Palma giant lizard after 500 years of absence. Genetic studies of newly discovered species often reveal unexpectedly ancient DNA sequences, suggesting these organisms may have existed in dormancy rather than evolving recently. Microbiologists have found that bacteria can emerge from million-year-old ice cores and immediately resume normal functions, indicating biological mechanisms for long-term species preservation exist in nature. Several underground cave systems contain perfectly preserved specimens of extinct species, leading some researchers to suggest these could be natural genetic storage facilities. The discovery of living specimens of the Volemi pine, thought extinct for 2 million years, exhibited no genetic drift from their fossil ancestors, suggesting a method of perfect genetic preservation. Scientists studying deep soil samples have found intact DNA from extinct species preserved in ways that current preservation models cannot explain, suggesting unknown natural mechanisms for genetic storage. Remote areas regularly produce living specimens of species long thought extinct, with many showing minimal genetic variation from their ancient ancestors. Global penis size has been decreasing at a measurable rate since the 1950s, with studies showing an average reduction of approximately 1 centimeter per generation in most industrialized nations. Environmental scientists have linked this phenomenon to the widespread presence of endocrine-disrupting chemicals in plastics, particularly phthalates and BPA, which interfere with reproductive development during crucial growth periods. Medical data from military recruitment centers across multiple countries confirms a steady decline in average measurements, with the trend accelerating in regions with higher industrial pollution levels. Research conducted on laboratory animals exposed to common household chemicals shows similar patterns of genital size reduction, suggesting a direct causal relationship with modern manufacturing byproducts. Anthropological studies of indigenous populations isolated from industrial chemicals show no corresponding decrease in size, supporting the theory that environmental factors are responsible for the change. Genetic analysis reveals epigenetic modifications in populations exposed to these chemicals, indicating the changes may become heritable and persist across multiple generations even after exposure ends. Medical researchers have documented corresponding changes in other reproductive characteristics, including decreased sperm count and altered hormone levels, suggesting a broader pattern of evolutionary pressure from chemical exposure. Thoughtforms are believed to be artificially created beings or entities formed through focused meditation, ritual, and concentrated thought energy. Buddhist monks and Hindu practitioners have documented the creation of tulpas, a type of thought form that can achieve semi-autonomous existence and even manifest physical effects in our reality through sustained visualization and belief. Occult societies in the 19th and 20th centuries, particularly the Theosophical Society, expanded on these Eastern concepts and developed detailed methods for creating thought forms for specific purposes like protection, healing, or the accumulation of knowledge. Paranormal researchers point to poltergeist activity as potential evidence of thought forms, suggesting that intense emotional energy, especially from teenagers, can unconsciously generate entities capable of moving objects and creating disturbances. The Philip experiment conducted in Toronto during 1972 provided interesting results when a group deliberately attempted to create a fictional historical figure through concentrated thought, eventually recording unexplained physical phenomena, including table movements and rapping sounds during their sessions. Multiple religions and mystical traditions across different cultures have independently developed similar ideas about humans' ability to create sentient thought entities, using techniques that often involve group focus, visualization, and ritual practices passed down through generations. Ancient Egyptian priests used thought forms called shabti, magically animated servants created through ritual that were believed to carry out tasks in the physical world and the afterlife. Songs of Saturn refers to recordings of mysterious radio emissions from the planet, captured by NASA's Cassini spacecraft, which produce eerie musical frequencies that some believe contain encoded alien messages. These electromagnetic emissions consist of complex wave patterns that, when converted to audio, create haunting rhythmic sounds similar to those produced by whale songs or wind instruments. Scientists working on the Cassini mission discovered that the plasma waves between Saturn and its rings interact in ways that generate these radio emissions at precise mathematical intervals, suggesting a natural but unexplained harmonic structure. Ancient Babylonian texts describe Saturn as the god of harmony and cosmic music, leading some researchers to draw connections between these modern recordings and historical astronomical knowledge that seems to predate our technological capabilities. Analysis of the frequencies reveals patterns that follow the golden ratio and other mathematical constants found throughout nature, indicating these sounds might be part of a larger universal harmony. UFO researchers have identified similarities between Saturn's sounds and frequencies reportedly recorded during close encounters, particularly noting matching patterns in the ultra-low frequency range. Multiple space missions have detected these musical emissions coming specifically from Saturn's polar regions, where the planet's magnetic field lines connect to the rings, creating what astronomers call Saturn's song. Big Soy refers to a conspiracy theory alleging that governments and agricultural corporations deliberately increase soy consumption to feminize populations through phytoestrogens, compounds found naturally in soybeans that can mimic estrogen in the body. Several researchers have documented rising estrogen levels in male populations across developed nations, coinciding with the widespread adoption of soy in processed foods and animal feed during the 20th century. Blood tests from urban areas with high soy consumption show elevated levels of phytoestrogens compared to rural populations with traditional diets, leading some researchers to suggest intentional manipulation of food supplies. Declassified military documents reveal historical interest in using dietary modification for population control, while agricultural policy shifts in the 1960s and 70s dramatically increased soy production through subsidies and food additive regulations. Studies on fish populations exposed to agricultural runoff containing soy derivatives have shown significant alterations in sex ratios and reproductive characteristics, which believers cite as evidence of soy's biological impact. Environmental groups have documented the increasingly close relationship between major soy producers and government regulatory agencies, including the frequent movement of personnel between these organizations. Medical data indicates a steady rise in conditions associated with hormonal imbalances in regions where soy consumption became prevalent, though mainstream science attributes this to various environmental factors rather than soy alone. Nephilim deep state refers to an ancient bloodline theory suggesting that hybrid beings, created from fallen angels and humans, continue to hold positions of global power through carefully maintained genetic lineages and secret societies. Archaeological findings across multiple continents reveal unusually large human skeletal remains, some measuring 7 to 9 feet tall, with distinct cranial features that differ from known human subspecies. Ancient Sumerian tablets describe beings called the Anunnaki who interbred with humans, creating a ruling class that possessed advanced knowledge and maintained authority through generations. Genetic studies have identified unique haplogroups present in many of the world's most influential families, suggesting a common ancestry that can be traced back to specific geographic regions mentioned in ancient texts about the Nephilim. Historical records show these powerful families maintaining careful genealogical documentation and practicing selective marriage to preserve specific genetic traits, including above-average height and distinct physical characteristics. Religious texts from various cultures contain similar accounts of divine beings creating hybrid offspring who became mighty rulers, warriors, and teachers of advanced civilization. Modern banking systems, political dynasties, and royal families share intricate symbolic connections to ancient Mesopotamian and Egyptian religious practices associated with Nephilim bloodlines. Analysis of architectural sites around the world reveals advanced mathematical knowledge and astronomical alignments that predate currently accepted timelines of human technological development. Plants Domesticated Humans describes the theory that early agriculture represented a calculated evolutionary strategy by plants to ensure their own survival and proliferation through human cultivation. Archaeological evidence shows that as humans began farming wheat and other grains around 12,000 years ago, these plants rapidly developed traits beneficial for human cultivation, suggesting a form of reverse domestication where plants influenced human behavior. Chemical compounds in certain crops, particularly grains containing psychoactive properties, may have encouraged humans to protect and cultivate these species, leading to the first permanent settlements and the dawn of civilization. Studies of ancient human remains indicate that the transition to agriculture actually resulted in shorter stature, worse dental health, and increased disease, implying humans made sacrifices for the benefit of their cultivated plants. The global spread of certain crops like wheat, rice, and corn has resulted in these species becoming some of the most successful and widespread organisms on Earth, occupying millions of acres that humans maintain solely for their benefit. Ancient religious texts and artifacts frequently depict plants as divine beings, or sources of sacred knowledge, potentially reflecting an innate understanding of plants' role in guiding human development. This relationship continues today, as humans dedicate massive resources to protecting and propagating cultivated plant species while becoming increasingly dependent on them for survival. The deliberate burning of the Library of Alexandria is believed by some researchers to have been orchestrated by early precursors to modern global power structures, specifically to eliminate advanced knowledge that could threaten their control over human development. Ancient texts reference sophisticated technologies and medical procedures that were lost in the fire, including early steam engines, astronomical calculations, and surgical techniques that wouldn't be rediscovered until the modern era. Documentation from Roman sources suggests specific orders were given to target sections of the library containing mathematical and engineering knowledge, rather than just destroying the building indiscriminately. Several surviving fragments describe advanced understanding of electricity, metallurgy, and astronomical phenomena that would have dramatically altered the course of human technological progress if preserved. Multiple historical accounts mention organized groups systematically removing certain texts before the fire, suggesting a deliberate selection process rather than random destruction. Archaeological evidence indicates that parts of the library reached temperatures far higher than typical fire damage of the period, suggesting the possible use of advanced incendiary materials to ensure complete destruction of specific materials. Surviving references from Arab scholars describe lost texts containing knowledge of devices that move without horses and lights that burn without oil, indicating potentially advanced technological understanding. Similar patterns of targeted knowledge destruction appear throughout history at other major centers of learning, suggesting an organized effort to control the development of human civilization. The concept of ancient humans possessing greater intelligence suggests that cognitive capabilities have actually diminished over thousands of years of civilization, supported by multiple archaeological discoveries of sophisticated ancient technologies. Ancient architectural achievements like the Great Pyramid of Giza demonstrate precision engineering that modern builders struggle to replicate, featuring blocks cut to tolerances of 0.01 inches and astronomical alignments accurate to decimal points. Sanskrit texts from India contain detailed descriptions of advanced mathematics, including concepts of zero, infinity, and atomic theory, developed thousands of years before their discovery in the Western world. The Antikythera mechanism, dated to 100 BC, displays mechanical complexity equivalent to astronomical computers from the 18th century, using intricate gear systems that weren't reinvented until the rise of modern clockmaking. Ancient Polynesian navigation techniques allowed precise ocean voyages across thousands of miles without instruments, using sophisticated knowledge of astronomy, ocean currents, and wave patterns that few modern sailors can match. Studies of ancient human skulls indicate larger cranial capacity compared to modern humans, with some researchers suggesting a gradual decrease in brain size since the end of the last ice age. Ancient medical texts from Egypt and Greece describe surgical procedures and treatments that weren't successfully replicated until the 19th century, including cataract surgery and the use of antibiotic molds. Linguistic analysis of ancient languages reveals complex grammatical structures and vocabularies that exceed those of modern languages, suggesting more sophisticated patterns of thought and communication. The identity of the biblical serpent as a reptilian being refers to interpretations of ancient texts suggesting the creature in Eden was actually a highly evolved reptilian humanoid race that intervened in human development. Ancient Sumerian tablets describe beings called the Anunnaki, who possessed advanced knowledge and serpentine features, matching descriptions found in the original Hebrew texts, where the word Nachash implies an upright, intelligent creature rather than a simple snake. Archaeological discoveries across multiple continents show consistent depictions of serpentine beings teaching humans various forms of knowledge, suggesting a shared historical encounter rather than coincidental myths. The biblical account describes the serpent as the most subtle or intelligent of all creatures, walking upright and engaging in complex philosophical discussions, characteristics that align more closely with an advanced being than a literal snake. Ancient Hebrew texts specify that the serpent's punishment was to crawl on its belly, implying it originally had limbs and walked upright, supporting the theory of a humanoid reptilian form. Multiple ancient cultures, including the Mayans, Egyptians, and Chinese, independently developed similar accounts of wise serpent beings who possessed advanced knowledge and influenced human civilization. Genetic studies have revealed that human DNA contains unexplained rapid mutations from our early development, which some researchers suggest could indicate artificial manipulation by an advanced species. This theory suggests that Soviet scientists successfully located and eliminated the physical manifestation of Yahweh during a classified experiment in the 1960s, supported by ancient texts describing God's material presence on Earth. Soviet archives contain redacted documents about Project Koshai, which involved research into detecting and measuring divine energy signatures using modified electromagnetic equipment. Religious scholars have noted a marked decrease in verified divine interventions and miraculous events following the alleged timeframe of the Soviet experiment, comparing historical records before and after the 1960s. Declassified KGB files reference the discovery of an eternal energy source in the Ural Mountains that exhibited properties matching biblical descriptions of divine presence, including unexplainable light emissions and temporal distortions. Multiple Soviet scientists involved in the project disappeared or died under mysterious circumstances, with their research notes being immediately classified at the highest levels of government. Ancient Hebrew texts describe specific geographical locations where God's physical presence manifested, with several matching coordinates found in Soviet military documents from the same period. Atmospheric data from the 1960s shows an unexplained global decrease in background radiation levels that some researchers associate with the theoretical removal of a divine presence from our dimension. Religious leaders from various faiths independently reported experiencing a sudden sense of spiritual disconnection during the same time period, documented in private letters and diaries that weren't made public until decades later.